Hey, I'm back, and today I want to show you how to make a resonator. And luckily, you can actually do this for free. So what we're going to use is M-Comb. You can find this in the Melda Productions free bundle. There's the M-Comb multiband, which is actually better, and you can do a lot more things with it. But for the basic resonator, we can just use the free M-Comb. So what we have in here is just comb filters, and these can be used to easily make a resonator. So I would suggest first turning on the limiter because comb filters easily feed back and it can, get really loud really fast. But before we start and do stuff with this, let me just play this. It's just me playing guitar. I'll let you hear it dry first. Okay, so I was just going for a Indian classical music vibe, and we'll use this resonator in the same way that the sympathetic strings work on a sitar or was it tambura? I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but it's a large Indian instrument. Anyway, let's move on. So you see here it says filter 1. We're going to tune this. And actually before we do that, we need to send audio to this track. I'm going to set this pre-fader just so I can turn down the guitar track if I want to. And one of the most important things is turning this way down. I'm going to set this to negative 25. Okay. You might have to move that up or down depending on what you're doing, but I'm going to start at negative 25. Although it seems low, trust me. Next here, where it says frequency, this is where we tune it to a certain note. So my guitar track, I did this as a drone in E. So we need to set our frequency to E. And whatever project you're using, just set this to whatever, key you're in. And so I could use this here, 82 hertz, but I think this is a little bit high. I like to set it almost as low as possible. So I'm going to set it at 20. I think that's a good frequency to start with. So let's just listen to the comb filter by itself. You can probably barely hear that. Let me turn up the feedback a little bit so you can hear it. So there, it probably sounds like it's in a tin room. It's not that great, but we can work with this. I have the volume down so low because when we add more comb filters, it's going to get louder and louder. So that's the first comb filter, but let's add a second comb filter. And we're going to set this one also to E, but I'm going to use an octave up. So it's going to be here, 41 hertz. And instead of having it in parallel like it is now, I'm going to have it in serial. So now the first one is going to feed into the second one. And now is when I might have to turn this down because this might start getting loud. So let's listen to this. Okay, so I'm starting to hear some kind of clipping, but it's still kind of low in volume, so that's good. And now let's do the third one here. Same thing, but instead of using E, I'm going to use a fifth up from E, which is B. This one's 61 hertz. There we go. And let's set this in serial also. Turn it down a little bit just in case, and let's hear it. There we go. So as you heard there's some points where it's getting really loud. One thing you can try to do is set the minimum frequency, move that up a bit, almost to the exact same thing as the frequency. And also I can try to adjust the limiter. Sometimes that will help also. And of course, just turning it down also works well. So let's hear it one more time. Okay, so that's getting much closer to what I want. Let me turn the guitar back on. I have my guitar here. Let's see how it sounds when I actually play through it. So that's getting pretty close to what I want. Of course, you can adjust this more, increase the feedback if you want something longer, but maybe I'll turn the feedback here for the second one up a bit. And you can adjust that until it's exactly what you want. But as you heard, it sounds kind of like a reverb, but it's tuned to a specific note. So if I play E, or B, you hear it kind of rings. But if I play a different note, let's say like F, it has some ringing, but it's a bit different. Or F sharp, or even G sharp. Each note will ring a different amount, and so as you play, the fundamental note, which is E, will keep ringing out, and the other notes won't ring out quite as much. So let's say if I play an E flat major arpeggio, you hear a little bit of ringing, but it doesn't sound that pleasant. Now let me play an E arpeggio. You can hear the resonator resonating along. It's almost like singing along with my guitar playing. So this is pretty good, but we can do a little bit more with this. Now let's put a reverb after it. So I'm going to choose M Turbo Reverb. You can use anything, but I like this one. Choose this. Turn this all the way up. Turn the low cut up because I don't want this to feedback too much with the low frequencies. And now I'm just going to check it to make sure the gain's okay. See how the output is much higher than the input? I don't want that, so I'm going to turn it down a bit. A little bit more. Okay, so now let's hear it. That's good. That's kind of resonator I want. But we can do even more with this. Let's try one of the special ones. Let's try shimmer. Let me turn off M-comb for a second, just so I can hear this by itself. I want that shimmering sound. Let's see how this sounds. That's a little bit hard to hear. I know it's very low in volume, but it's okay. I'll turn this all the way up. Once I add M-comb, it's going to get much louder. So let's just hear this by itself without the dry signal. So that's cool because like I have an ambient reverb, but it's tuned to a specific note. So now let's add the dry guitar back in and see what it sounds like. That's exactly what I want. So let's listen to everything all together once, completely dry. Okay, now with the resonator on. There we go, and if we want to get even more ambient, just turn some of the modulation on like this and get even more lush sound. For me, that sounds great, especially for ambient stuff. And I'm using guitar here, but of course you could use your voice, you could use a synthesizer, whatever you want. And I'm using the key of E, but you can do this exact same thing with any key. And you could even use a modulator here and change it periodically if you wanted to. So if you think, oh, okay, I want to change from E to C, you can hook all these up and change them if you like. But that's it for today. If you have any questions, leave them down below. Tell me what you think about this. Give me a thumbs up if you like it. And until next time, see you.